Now, the next Governor General is Lord William Bentinck. Okay, so Lord William Bentinck. So his time period is 1828 to 1835. See, very important Governor General. So we have already discussed a few of the Governor Generals, and out of that, Lord Cornwallis was very important. Lord Warren Hastings was important because he was the first Governor General of Bengal. Okay, then we have seen Lord Minto was important, and Lord Hastings was important because during Lord Hastings' time the policy has changed, right? Now if you look at the Governor Generals altogether, Lord William Bentinck is one of the most important. If he will come in 1 out of 5. Okay, it's like Lord Lytton, Lord Ripon. Okay, so Lord Dalhousie, like that. Lord William Bentinck is very important for many good reason also. Okay, so we'll discuss everything one by one. He was a very liberal man, and he was famous for certain reforms. And if you look at him, the most important point that we need to discuss is anti-Sati resolution. Anti-Sati resolution in 1829. Now, the Indian who worked for this anti-Sati resolution, we all know Rajaram Mohan Roy, that we will discuss again. Now, in anti-Sati resolution, through this, Sati was declared as culpable homicide not amounting to murder. So, I hope you might be knowing about Sati. Sati was a practice in North India. Okay, so this is one point which need to be very clear. North India, not in South India, and among the upper caste Hindus, not among all Hindus. So North India and upper caste Hindus, that if the husband has died, the wife will immolate herself into the funeral pyre of the husband. Very cruel practice, right? So now anti-Sati resolution, through anti-Sati resolution, Sati was declared as culpable homicide not amounting to murder. Okay, and a maximum punishment of 10 years of rigorous 10 years of rigorous imprisonment was given for those who instigate the female to commit suicide or those who compel the female to commit suicide. Okay, so that was the law. Now you can see during these time there are a lot of social reform efforts are actually happening from British side, but whether it is intentional or unintentional or for some other reason, there is no point in discussing that now. Like anti-Sati resolution, you can see now. Then you can see during Lord Hardinge one time, ban on female infanticide, ban on human sacrifice. Then you can see later during Dalhousie time in 1856, widow remarriage, etc. Widow remarriage act etc. Right? All these culminated into 1857 result. 1857 revolt. Now, when we discuss about 1857 revolt, we will discuss various reasons: military reason, economic reason, political reason, and socio-religious reasons. So we will discuss all these reforms that they have done as the socio-religious reasons for 1857 revolt, because these upper caste Brahmins or upper caste people started thinking that Britishers are unnecessarily interfering in their religion, and you know they don't want any others to interfere in their religion. Okay, so that is one of the reasons for 1857 revolt, and you cannot see any such reforms after 1857, and that Herculean task is left out to our constitutional makers, and we have done certain reforms after independence. And you can see Hindu Marriage Act and all is passed after the independence, and divorce was allowed for female after the independence only. Okay, so let's come back to Lord William Bentinck. So this is one of the most important point, and the Indian who worked for this is Rajaram Mohan Roy. Rajaram Mohan Roy as a separate discussion we'll do later when we discuss about socio-religious reform movements during 19th century. But keep in mind, this Raja was not because he was Raja of any kingdom. It was a title given to him by Akbar too. Okay, now the next point that I need to discuss under Lord William Bentinck is Charter Act of 1833. Okay, Charter Act of 1833. So I hope you know about 1813 Charter Act, which we have already discussed. 2 points in 1813 Charter Act that were: the monopoly of East India Company ended except in 2 items. Those 2 items were trade in tea products and trade with China. Then we have seen the company was directed to spend rupees 1 lakh for the purpose of betterment of education in those areas where they have control. And this question was asked in this year prelims also. Okay, now let's move on to 1833 Charter Act. Okay, so the first point is basically the Governor General of Bengal post was abolished and Governor General of India post was created. So in 1773 Regulating Act, Governor of Bengal became Governor General of Bengal. So here Governor General of Bengal post abolished and instead Governor General of India post was created. So if I ask you who was the last Governor General of Bengal, it is Lord William Bentinck. Who was the first Governor General of India? It also Lord William Bentinck. Okay. Now who was the first Governor General of Bengal? First one, Lord Warren Hastings, that we have seen in Regulating Act of 1773. Okay. So this is the first provision. So the first Governor General of India was Lord William Bentinck. Now second important point is the number of Executive Council, which was 3 till then, was once again increased to 4. Now if you observe, so now it is Governor General of India plus, which was 3 till then, now increased to 4 means one more added. Now this newly added member is called as law member. His duty or his role is basically to advise the Governor General in the legal matters, etc. Okay, and the first law member was Lord Macaulay. Okay, Lord Macaulay. Now we will be discussing about Macaulay in detail later after some time in this session itself when it comes to education. Okay, we will have to study about Macaulay minute. In fact, this also was asked in this year prelims. Okay, Anglicist Orientalist controversy. Okay, so Lord Macaulay was the first law member. Now one point which I need to discuss is, if you see the Regulating Act of 1773, what was the provision? Governor General of Bengal plus 4. Then it was reduced to 3 in Pitt's India Act of 1784. Now it is again increased to 4. Okay, then third point. We have seen that 4 Diwani courts were established by Lord Cornwallis when we discussed about judicial reforms of Lord Cornwallis, right? So 4 Diwani courts were established at Dhaka, Patna, Calcutta and Murshidabad. Okay, and the third provision is these 4 Diwani courts which were established by Lord Cornwallis in Dhaka, Patna, Calcutta, Murshidabad were to be abolished and instead high courts to be set up. Okay, and instead high courts to be set up. And this was not implemented during this time. We'll see when the High Court was set up and where it was set up, etc. in the next session. Okay, so in the 3 important presidencies, and that you will see later. Okay, Calcutta, Madras and Bombay. Okay, so we will discuss about this later, when, where, etc. Now fourth provision is, okay, no discrimination should be made in the recruitment of civil services on the basis of sex, color, creed, place of birth, etc. That means technically Indians can also enter into civil service because of 1833 Charter Act. So no discrimination in the recruitment of civil service on the basis of sex, color, creed, place of birth, etc. That means Indians can enter. So civil services was started in 1793 by Lord Cornwallis, that we have already discussed. So after 40 years, through Charter Act, now Indians can enter. But obviously the exam will be set in their favor, will be in England, and the syllabus also will be in their favor. Now next point, fifth point is, when we discussed about 1833 Charter Act, the most important point that we have discussed is end of monopoly except in 2 items, right? Now that 2 surviving monopoly is also ended here. Okay, so 2 surviving monopoly also ended. So what were the 2 surviving monopoly? Trade in tea product and trade with China. So 2 surviving monopoly also ended. Okay, so 2 surviving monopoly also ended. So 5 points. Governor General of Bengal became Governor General of India, and the first Governor General of India was Lord William Bentinck. The Executive Council number was increased to 4 from 3. The 4th member is law member. The first law member was Lord Macaulay. The 4 Diwani courts which were at Dhaka, Patna, Calcutta, Murshidabad, which were established by Lord Cornwallis, were to be abolished and instead high courts to be set up. Then no discrimination in the recruitment of civil services on the basis of sex, color, creed, place of birth, etc. Now next point that we need to discuss under Lord William Bentinck is anti-Thuggee law. See, one point that you need to remember is British rule in India should not only be understood in terms of negative consequences, right? There are a lot of positive things that you need to know. This is one of that. Okay, so we have done a lot of discussion regarding the reforms that they have introduced, right? Anti-Sati resolution, and we have talked about ban on female infanticide. ban on human sacrifice, Widow Remarriage Act, Universal Marriage Act, etc. So if you look at this is also one of the important social reform. If not social reform, there's a very good reform in the law and order situation. And if you see, during British time, law and order situation in India is improved drastically. Okay, so one of the most important point that we need to discuss under this law and order reforms is what we have done already, like police reforms in the year 1793, right, by Lord Cornwallis, and we have seen that in detail. Now here we need to discuss about anti-Thuggee law. Okay, so now, who were thugs? Thugs were armed people. They hide in jungle, and when the traders or the business people or the merchants, when they take a shortcut route and when they go to the market through this road, okay, so these people will hide in jungle. They are armed people. They will attack these traders and they will loot them. They will kill them. So thugs were a very common problem in parts of central India at that time, and when they introduced this law through anti-Thuggee law, thugs were completely suppressed. Okay, so the point here is, during British time, law and order situation is improved drastically. So if you get a question like this, law and order situation in India is improved during British time, comment, critically analyze, or whatever it is, these are the points that you need to highlight. One you can write under Lord Cornwallis, that is police reform. Then this you can write as anti-Thuggee law. Okay, and you can see in the coming discussions many other steps regarding law and order. Okay, so this is one point that we need to discuss under Lord William Bentinck. And you can see after sometimes it's like already during police reform we have seen police officials were appointed, right? Till then zamindars enjoyed the power of policing. Now police officials were appointed, police stations were established, and a person called Daroga will head the police station. Number of police stations form a circle, and superintendent of police will head the circle. All these things we have seen. So the zamindars lost the power of policing. So law and order situation improved drastically. And you can see, if a criminal was allowed to hide in a village, the entire village is punished. So because of all those things, the law and order situation is improved in India. Okay. Now next point that we need to discuss under Lord William Bentinck is very important, that we call as Macaulay Minute. Okay, so during this time there was a debate going on. Okay, so the debate is whether the education, the higher education should be given in English language and in English model, okay, or whether it should be in Indian model. Okay, so the debate is regarding the higher education, okay, whether the higher education should be given in English model or Indian model. Okay, now there are two groups. Okay, one is Anglicist. Okay, so Anglicist supported this version. The education should be in English model and in English medium. Okay, but Orientalist, the other group we call as Orientalist, they supported the education should be in Indian model. And again there was division among them, that one group say that you should give it in classical language, okay, and the others say that you should give it in vernacular language. Okay, so the two groups were, one supporting English model, English medium education, the other supporting Indian model education either through classical languages like Sanskrit, Persian, Arabic, etc., or the other supporting the vernacular language like Tamil, Malayalam, Telugu, Kannada, etc. Okay. Now finally Anglicist won the debate, and they have decided that they are going to give education, the higher education, in English model and in English medium. And this is what we call as Macaulay Minute. This is what we call as trickle down theory. This is what we call as downward filtration theory. Okay, so trickle down theory means you throw something to the top, automatically it will come down. So the idea is giving education or the higher education in English model and in English medium. But the problem, now we need to understand the problem. The problem was, they are not going to give education to masses. They are not going to give education to all sections. And that you can see during 1854 Wood's Dispatch, their education for masses. But here the education is giving for a minority. Okay, so the idea is the higher education should be given for few sections, and those who are getting education in English model and in English medium, they will teach rest of the others in vernacular language. Okay, so this is what we call as trickle down theory. You throw something to the top, it will automatically come down. You educate few Indians in English model and in English medium. After they learn things, they will teach rest of the Indians in vernacular language. Okay, and it was a failure because those who got education in English medium and in English model, they were never ready to teach rest of the Indians in vernacular language. Rather, they became more English than English themselves. Okay, so that's why this was a failure. The initiative was good, they tried to do something. So when we discuss about education, this question was asked in 2018 prelims. Okay, we have to discuss certain milestones if it is mains exam. Okay, so first effort that we can see in 1813 Charter Act, company was directed to spend rupees 1 lakh for the purpose of betterment of education in those areas where they have control. The second effort that you can see in 1835 through trickle down theory or downward filtration theory or the Macaulay Minute. Okay, then you can see in 1837 Persian will be replaced with English as the official language. Then the most important one that we call as Magna Carta of modern Indian education is coming in 1854, and that's what we call as Wood's Dispatch. Okay, then again you can see in 1882 Hundar Commission. So all these are milestones in education. So the point here is we were discussing about the Anglicist Orientalist controversy. Finally Anglicist won the debate, so they have decided that the education should be given in English model and in English medium, but the problem was they are not going to give education for all sections of Indians. They have decided to give education for minority, and those minority after learning in English model and in English medium will teach rest of the others was the assumption, and this assumption was never came true. Okay, that's why it was a failure. So I hope you understood this. Okay, so this is what Anglicist Orientalist controversy or Macaulay Minute or trickle down theory or downward filtration theory. So there are other interpretation also. It's like they want certain section of people, okay, who need to be interpreters between English and the lower level Indians. Okay, so they have decided to teach some of the Indians in English model and in English medium. They thought that they will act as, okay, bridge. Okay, they are going to interpret things. Okay, so they want now one important facts that I need to discuss is actually in 1835 the first medical college was set up at Calcutta. Okay, so first medical college was set up at Calcutta. The first engineering college we'll see after Wood's Dispatch. Okay, so Wood's Dispatch, one of the most important provision was technological colleges has to be established, and you can see two technological colleges were established. One in Roorkee, that was the first engineering college. Later it was converted to IIT during Vajpayee time. Then another technological college, that was Pusa Institute of Agricultural Science. Okay, originally in Bihar, then it was shifted to Delhi because of earthquake. So we'll see that. But the first medical college was established in 1835 at Calcutta. Okay, next point. The first tea garden was also set up, and we'll discuss about this later. So William Bentinck, I told you already, very important Governor General. Certain Governor Generals like William Bentinck, Lord Cornwallis, okay, then Lord Ripon, then Lord Dalhousie. Okay, so all these are very important Governor Generals. Now, next is Charles Metcalfe. Okay, next Governor General is Charles Metcalfe. So in 1835, he came for few months, and I already told you there is no fixed tenure for Governor General. Some will come for 4 years, okay, some will come for 12 years. We have seen Warren Hastings from 73 to 85, okay, some will come for few months, okay. So there is no fixed tenure for Governor General. Here also you can see he came for few months. And the only important event that we need to discuss from exam point of view is press freedom. Okay, so press freedom was given. And when we discuss about press freedom, very controversial or important topic, because some people will come and they will give press freedom, they grant press freedom, some will take away. Okay, and again you can see this after independence also you can see there are restrictions on press during emergency time. Indira Gandhi imposed censorship on press, etc. Okay, so this is a very important topic. So when we prepare about press freedom, we need to know what is the first newspaper and who was the editor, in which language it was published, okay, etc. So if I ask you the first newspaper which was published in India, that was the Bengal Gazette. Okay, the Bengal Gazette, that was published in the year 1780. The Bengal Gazette in 1780. And who was the editor and the owner? It is James Augustus Hickey. Okay, James Augustus Hickey. James Augustus Hickey. So this was in English language. Okay, so this was in English language. The first newspaper published in India, the Bengal Gazette, in the year 1780. The owner and the editor, James Augustus Hickey, English language. So obviously, you need to know the first Indian language newspaper, right? That was Sambat Kaumudi. Sambat Kaumudi in the year 1818, and who was the editor of it? Rajaram Mohan Roy. And which language? Bengali language. Okay, so Bengali language. So these are few facts which you are supposed to know. So the point is, Charles Metcalfe in 1835, press freedom was given. That's why he is important. Okay. Then next Governor General is Lord Auckland. Lord Auckland during 1836 to 42. Okay, 36 to 42. So Auckland is a city in New Zealand. Okay, so otherwise one important event that we need to discuss is there was Anglo-Afghan War. Anglo-Afghan War 1. Okay, so you can see they are fighting against Afghan twice. So why they are fighting against Afghan? See, if you compare Afghanistan with India, the population is very less, the area is very dry, there is no resources, there is no market, but still they are fighting against Afghan. See, if you see why they need India, especially after 1813 Charter Act. If you remember, I told you for 2 points, right? One is for market and one is for getting raw material. Okay, one is to sell their products. Okay, industrialization is already going on in England, and a lot of industries, a lot of capitalists, they are searching for market and they are looking for a place where you can get raw materials. Okay, so India was a very good destination. Because of population you'll get market, and because of the resources you can get raw materials a lot. Okay, so we have seen during Hastings period there was a change in policy. They started annexing more and more areas because of this reason. But if you look for Afghan, why they are fighting against Afghan? They are not going to get anything from Afghan. Then why they are fighting against Afghan? You can see they are fighting against Bhutan, they are fighting against Burma, etc. Okay, so you can see Anglo-Bhutanese war, Anglo-Burmese war, etc. Why they are fighting against these neighboring countries? The reason is they want to keep these neighboring countries as a buffer state. See, if you have a control in Afghanistan, if you have your military presence in Afghanistan, you can check any Russian invasion in Afghan itself. Okay, so you can prevent Russian to enter into India if you have a control in Afghan. Same way you can prevent Japan if you have a control in the eastern part like Burma, Bhutan, etc. So that's the reason why they are fighting against these neighboring countries. The objective is basically to keep them as buffer state so that they will not enter into India and they are not going to disturb you in India. I hope this point is clear. Okay, so that's the reason why they are fighting against Afghan. The next person is Lord Ellenborough. Lord Ellenborough. Okay, during 1842 to 44. So one important event that we need to discuss under Lord Ellenborough is in 1843, that is annexation of Hind. Annexation of Sindh. Okay, sorry. Annexation of Sindh. So annexation of Sindh, one important event in 1843 under Lord Ellenborough was annexation of Sindh. Why it is important? Because if you remember during Wellesley time, I have told you in 1803, Sindh signed a treaty. What was that? Subsidiary alliance. And what was the provision in subsidiary alliance? Britishers or the company have to protect them, right? So company will not interfere in the internal matters and company will protect Sindh. That was the treaty, but now they are annexing Sindh. So I hope this is clear for you, right? And there was a famous letter written by Charles Napier, the person who was responsible for the annexation, and he wrote a letter to the Governor General, Lord Ellenborough, and the letter says, we don't have any right to annex Sindh and still we do that, and what a piece of rascality it will be. Okay, so that itself will tell you, okay, so how they have done this, and they are not supposed to do it, right? They don't have any right to do it, but still they do it. Okay, why they do it? Because I told you, after 1813 Charter Act, they changed their policy. They started annexing more and more areas into their territory. Why? They are looking for market and they are looking for raw material. Till then, when Lord Wellesley introduced the policy subsidiary alliance, they don't have any plan to annex those states. The only objective is to keep their army without spending anything from their exchequer. But now, the very same army they started using to annex those states. And who changed this policy? Lord Hastings. I hope this is clear for all of you.